Okay, we're gonna start the meeting and we'll tell you when you can talk.
Okay.
Oh, where's President? Here he comes.
Is it working?
We can't see him, but he can hear everyone. We can hear him. So we're gonna start the meeting. I'm recording. Let's do our.
All right, this meeting's in session. Let's get the time. It is 7:10 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Obviously, public, if they're signed on, they realize how to do that through the Zoom webinar. So we're calling the meeting to order per ORS 192.610 to 192.690. Chaplain Patrick?
Yeah.
Can you do the honors?
Our Father, thank you for this fire department. We thank you for each and every person who gives their time, heart, mind, and soul to make this department successful in the service of the community. We thank you for each firefighter, each EMT, each support crew member, each chief, each sponsor, and each board member. We are grateful that through wise decisions, everyone returns home, even in this time of sickness. We humbly ask that you be with us now as we discuss department business. We ask that you direct every decision to be toward the department's greater goals, mission, and vision, as well as the community's greater good. Help us to make the department grow, be successful, and attractive for potential recruits. Bless us by giving us wisdom, care, empathy, unity, and the desire to serve. We pray this in the name and virtue of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, flag salute. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll conduct roll call. Director Day. Here. Director Miller. Here. Director Oliver. Here. Director McAdoo.
He was there, then he wasn't.
I don't see him on. Yeah, I don't see his name.
Can you give me the
He is not
current
here.
phone?
He was on earlier. He was on earlier than when you rebooted, it kicked him off.
He's asking for the passcode, so he's
Who?
technically here.
John.
Director McAdoo, yes. I'm giving it to him.
All right.
Okay, so he should be on any second.
Chief, how's everything going?
That is, he's still not asking.
Yeah, I was just asking Chief O'Connor how everything's been running.
Going well. It's super busy, of course, but things are moving ahead.
Yeah. How's the district doing with the COVID vaccine mandate?
We ended up doing really well. We had kind of a scare in the beginning, but we're down to, I think we have 4 volunteers that didn't do anything with it, but everybody else is good.
Great.
Did you get it?
Still waiting for Director McAdoo. Oh, wait.
There he is.
Okay, there he is. I'm gonna let him talk.
Well,
All right, there he is.
Okay, I'm gonna finish the roll call. Director McAdoo
Here.
and Silva is present. Chief, do you have any changes to the agenda as written?
I do not.
Directors, anything to add or any changes? Okay, and we'll go ahead and move forward. There's nothing for the consent agenda, is there?
Well, the consent agenda should be your bills to pay and approving minutes from last month.
And let's see where that's. It's at the very back.
And I'll just let you guys know I lost the video part.
Okay.
But I can hear you okay.
Did everybody get a chance to look at the bills?
Yeah, there's a stack up there to be signed on top of the rest of the financial report. The financial report and approving bills to pay are two different things. Yeah.
Okay. So consent agenda. I'll need a motion.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
I have a motion on the floor from Director Miller. Do I hear a second? Second by Director Oliver. A motion on the floor, open for discussion. None. I'm going to call for the question. Director Day,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Oliver,
Yes.
Director McAdoo,
Yes,
and Silva's yes. Okay. Chief's report.
No, Chief's report, culmination of what I send you guys each week is what that comes down to, but highlights of that are we've got Joe Smith accepted the deputy chief position and he will start full-time on November 1st. We now have Mike Alderman, one of our current volunteers, working as our fire marshal, at least on a temporary interim basis. And that has been huge lately. There's a whole lot of building, I think, getting ready to happen here on our north end, and we've been inundated. As you heard me tell Mr. Silva from WHA, we went from over half of our people not getting vaccinated or exempted to we're down to 4 that we had to issue a leave of absence to. So huge improvement. Of those 4, I think we've only heard from 2 of them saying that they just were going to do it, and another one we haven't heard anything from. And anyway, whittled it down quite a bit. Good. Had a significant fire on Tumala Mountain Road right at the end of September, where the owner occupant set the house on fire. Obviously had some mental issues and some drug issues going on there. Was threatening with a firearm, shot himself 4 times. We weren't able to actually get into the incident for like 2 hours, 3 hours or something like that. So the structure was completely gone. Police had to tussle with him and had to get the state fire marshal's office involved. DA's pursuing charges at some level, but that's where we're at with that for now. And then most recently, we had an excavator on fire, which somebody in the room might know a little bit about. But we have one of our firefighters with a helmet cam, and I was able to actually get the footage of them coming up and putting the fire out. You could see the thing burn. It was actually pretty cool. So that is.
Oh, excellent. And then I'm going to move right back to business items. So next on the agenda is Steve Silva from our insurance, WHA.
Okay, thank you for the floor. So I was just doing a routine phone call, speaking with Cheryl, and we covered the property and casualty renewal, which she sent back to me and I reviewed, and everything looked to be in great order. And every year we ask each of our districts who, if I see something that needs attention, or we feel that needs attention, or make recommendations, I'll do so. And so just like in the years past, when I looked at the full faithful performance bond, which is currently at a $25,000 limit for the district, I just asked Cheryl if the districts were interested in increasing that to our minimum recommendation of 100,000. And I think she channeled the question to the board. And then that prompted me to be here before you tonight to explain why we feel that $100,000 is our recommendation. So essentially the minimum that is required by the ORS is $10,000, which you are meeting. And the maximum can be whatever level the board chooses to have. And so what we have noticed over the years is that that $100,000 mark seems to be a comfortable number. And so that's kind of what we've stuck with for years now, is recommending that the district be at $100,000 crime bond. This crime bond is basically deals with the district's finances, and it essentially protects the district's finances from embezzlement or theft of funds. And so that could be committed by an employee or board member, volunteer. And so everybody at the district, board members, volunteers, paid career staff, are all covered by this crime protection. So everybody, so if you ever get asked a question, are we bonded? Are we covered? The answer is yes. So so you might be asking me, why do we feel that you might want to increase the bond from 25 to anything more than that? And the answer is multifold. Can everybody hear me okay before I continue?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. So currently you're at a $25,000 level. Let's just talk about limits and cost, and then we'll move into the whys or considerations. So right now for this year, 2021, you have a $25,000 bond, and your contribution or cost for that is $255 annually. This coverage covers not just the employee theft or embezzlement, or forgery. It covers forgery or altercation. It covers social engineering fraud, which is a cyber coverage. It's got a couple of other cyber coverages built in, and cyber right now is pretty critical. It has personal accounts of forgery or alteration, funds transfer fraud, computer restoration, computer fraud, money order and counterfeit currency, employee theft, and that's pretty much it. So there's more than, there's multiple reasons to want a higher limit. Some of the things that the district can do to protect itself and still stay at 25,000, you are likely already doing, such as having a different person who actually balances the checkbook or register, not be a signer on checks, having 2 signatures required on all checks that go out. Small things like that can make a big difference to control the loss of any funds. And so what happens is a small limit of $25,000 might seem like a large number depending on how you look at it, but when we look at it in terms of how easy it is to get away with $25,000 as opposed to, 100, it takes about a year and a half for some of these things to ever be discovered, and sometimes even longer, 5-10 years down the road, and then you realize that you're trying to account for everything and you can't quite do it. It could happen in a multitude of ways: credit cards, checks, donations. There's a whole wide array of ways that money can disappear. So just about every fire district that we deal with is at least your size or larger, and many of them even smaller than Estacada, have the $100,000 limit, but it's truly a board decision. So I think I think that if you want to stay at 25, it's perfectly fine. You're within the legalities of the statutes. But it was simply just something that we do every year. And when I'm looking at your policy, I'm going to ask you probably next year because this is what I do to every district that has it under that $100,000 threshold. So are there any questions, or do you need me to elaborate on anything?
Yeah, Mr. Silva, this is Matthew. I have a twofold question. The first one is for the $25,000 of coverage, we're paying $255 and some change basically for the policy annually. So if it goes from 25,000 to 100 grand, what's the total cost?
I got a crime rate sheet right in front of me. How many employees do we have today? Are you
9,
between
10,
26 and 50?
12.
13.
13. Okay, so between 11 and 25. So I'm looking at an outdated crime rate sheet from 2020 because I could not find the 2021 for the current year, and I didn't get a copy of the renewing year for 2022. But I can at least give you the number. Between 11 and 25 employees on a $100,000 limit, it was $495. And these crime rates have been trickling up, I don't know, 5, 6, 7% annually. And so my guess right now, if you're between 11 and 25 employees, you're going to be somewhere between $500 and $600 annually. So it's quite a jump, more than what you're used to paying, but you have an awful lot more coverage.
Right. So, I mean, one of my concerns is, well, not a concern with you, but so we're paying $240 more annually to jump from $25,000 to 100 grand. Now, so my question would be this: two scenarios. Let's say one of our career people come here, they park their brand new high performance, whatever, $70,000 car, and they get a fire and everybody's gone. And now that car is stolen, broke into, robbed, taken, and destroyed. Do you cover it so they don't have to claim it with their insurance company?
No, well, so that's totally unrelated to the crime bond that we're talking about, right? So.
Well, I mean, that's for you to tell me. To me,
Yes,
crime is
yes,
crime,
because
right?
because
somebody-
the crime coverage that the district has is strictly only deals with the district's finances. It does not, it's not theft. It's not theft coverage for property. This is
Only
crime
financial.
Yeah, only
full
financial.
faithful performance bond.
So let's say we have something, I mean, an employee who's stealing money from the fire district and it's happening over multiple years. And we have 25,000 or 100,000. Is that 100,000 only for that fiscal year? Or, I mean, if we go back and we find out that it's $500,000 spread over years.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's compounding or not. I hadn't thought about whether or not that it could be like a compounding type of payout. All I can tell you is that you have, the 25,000. I can look into this a little further and get back to you, maybe send Cheryl a note on it, but that's a great question. I do not think that that's how it works. I know that you have a limit. Once it's discovered, then what happens is the crime policy will make you whole to the limit that you are purchasing. So whether it's 25,000 or 100, if whatever the dollar amount is up to your limit, you'll get back immediately. And then because it's usually, it's a crime, it'll be investigated by the law enforcement, then they will go after the person or persons who took the money, and they'll go through a trial or whatever, and they will try to get restitution from them if it's available. If it's not available, then it's not available. But So to answer your question, I can't say for certainty tonight that, you know, if you had 2 or 3 years worth of missing funds that amounted to greater than, you know, let's say it was 10,000 one year and 3,000 the next. I don't know if it's compounding that way. I tend to think that if the total sum of money is less than the total limit, then that's probably what's going to be available to you. So I do need to follow up with you on that. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the follow-up on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can check into that, and hopefully I can get an answer to Cheryl and she can just email or bring it up at your
Right,
next
we
board
have
meeting.
new
That's soon enough.
restraints. It doesn't even give an opportunity. As soon as we get the revenues, we go and we invest it with that US Bank investment thing. The money's all locked up. So the question is, how much fluid money do we really have?
Just based on our general funds.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the question. So if we're not dealing with more than, you
So we
know,
have less risk now
totally less.
because of the LGIP.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's a valid question. I mean, that, right? So I mean,
Oh,
if
yeah.
we,
Well,
if we
it's a
find somebody
great
who
question.
steals 100 grand each year for 3 consecutive years, what do they say? Oh, you only get 100 grand,
Well, see,
but we
yeah,
paid the
but
fee every
yeah, we pay
year.
the
Yeah, it's
premiums every year.
So,
My
so
opinion, with 25,000, if somebody gets caught stealing from the district or there's some sort of cyber crime, it's probably gonna cost the district $25,000 just to figure it out.
Yeah.
Without doing anything, without recovering.
Especially if
funds.
it's
That's
cyber stuff.
as large as we are with many people, I think that we're underinsured. Personally.
So if I can, I think that that it does respond the way that you asked the question, because I know if you let a crime bond lapse, in other words, if you decided to cancel the crime bond or forgot to renew it, let's just say, well, with the SDAO, because you have it in the package, it's very difficult to forget about it because it renews with the rest of your policy. And so it would be very hard to write a check and short pay it and specifically say, I don't want to pay it for the crime coverage. That won't happen. But some districts don't have their crime coverage with SDAO. They have them with other companies like the Hartford, for example. And so what happens is if you have a crime coverage in force and you decide to cancel it before, let's say you wanted to shop around and get a different rate from a different carrier to get the same crime coverage. If there's a lapse in coverage, it will void all prior acts. So it's pretty critical that when it comes to crime coverage, that it's a continuous ongoing coverage. So me understanding that makes me feel like it would respond if there were multiple policy years with a total sum of X dollars that would be payable up to the limit, to current limit. So, but I will double check. That's a great question. I just need to follow up on it and let you know. Any other questions on?
I have one more question, and you might have covered this already, but I'm having a hard time hearing. So let's say in our software, we have all the employees and volunteer social security numbers and all that information, and we get hacked. One of my buddy's employers, that happened to them, and they had to offer like LifeLock for 3 years for them, and it was, I don't know, it was like $30-some a month per person, and I mean, all their employees took it, hundreds of employees. Does this insurance cover that?
So that's a great question. Actually, with your liability policy, not with this crime policy, but your liability policy also has some cyber coverage. So what you're talking about is cyber extortion or cyber threats. It basically amounts to cyber liability. So let's go through this. We got computer fraud, computer restoration, funds transfer fraud, So I'm not particularly seeing here, but when I look at the liability side of it, and this is why we are recommending now that districts consider, because the threat is real, we're recommending that districts consider a enhanced cyber liability. It'd be a standalone. SDAO can only provide so much coverage on liability. And actually right now, the cost for cyber liability has quadrupled in the last 2 years. So it's very expensive because there's been a lot of claims lately. But when I look at your liability policy, we have data disclosure liability, and you have $1 million limit for that. So there may be some coverage to help with that on your liability policy. There's also another form of liability or cyber liability on here, which is an Oregon Consumer Identity Theft Protection Act expense reimbursement, and there's $100,000 coverage on that line, and those two are considered cyber types of coverage within your standard liability package. And then your crime bond or your crime policy picks up a few more things related to cyber. So I think, from what you described, it's data disclosure, the loss of information gets stolen. And if you have to, pay to get, to either get it back or like ransomware, or if you have to pay to get your system fixed to, if it got hacked and there's an issue with the software or something. So there should be some coverage in this policy for it. But truly what you want to consider is a standalone cyber policy. And I'm sure you're not, it's not the first time you've heard it. If you're paying attention to what's going on, you're hearing stuff about cyber almost daily. We hear it daily. You might hear it weekly or monthly or, a couple times a year, but we hear it a lot. One more thing I wanted to point out. Whoops, hold on a second. Okay. Number 6. So data disclosure liability is limited to $5 million for all members of the trust combined during a coverage period. So that's an important thing to understand about that. The Oregon or the consumer identity theft protection coverage that you had $100,000 limit on, that one's limited to $500,000 for all members of the trust combined during the policy period. So it's not very much coverage. I mean, that could get wiped out with one claim. So it's just important to understand these limits. And you should have a copy of this at the district. If you want to see another copy, I could forward it to Cheryl and she can distribute it at some point. But if you have a copy of the policy, and you'll be getting a new one in December, or sorry, January, first week in January, and that'll show you what you have there as well. I must say it's glad to see the district bounce back with all of the hiring that went on for the career members and volunteers, and picking up the pace again. I know it's been a long project. I worked with Steve Abel and Cheryl quite a bit. And then when Chief O'Connor came in, we sat down and talked a little bit. I'm glad to see that the district's progressing. Okay, any further questions?
How long do you need to get back to us on the questions that we had?
I could try to find out tomorrow. I'm gonna stay on it until I got an answer and just get it to you. So.
Okay, thank you.
we can get that and then just forward it to the group.
Email it, yeah. Email it out.
So if, one last thing, if you do want to increase the policy, just let Cheryl know and she can send a note over. You will have to fill out a application to increase the limit. It's takes about 10 minutes or so to fill out. It's a real simple application. And you might want to do that together because it's, there may be questions in there that either the chief or Cheryl can't answer, but it's not too difficult. So, but does require an application. It's basically to collect information so that they could, underwriters can properly review it and then go ahead and extend the endorsement.
Okay, and Mr. Silva, also, when you answer the questions and send it to the chief or Cheryl, would you include the 2021 actual costs of the different levels of insurance? So I'd like to be able to see it 25, 50, 75, 100.
Okay,
So increments of like 25 grand are fine.
sure, I can do that. And just so you know, they step up. So the increments are 25, then it jumps to 50, and then it goes to 75 and then 100. So you're going to need to see three different costs of 50,000, a 75, and 100,000. That steps up incrementally, and once you go past 100, it jumps straight to 250,000, and then there's a 350 option, and then 500, and
So-
then yeah. So I don't think we need to go there, but
Yeah, just include it up to 100,000.
yep, I can do that.
All right. Cool. Directors, any further questions for Mr. Silva? None? All right. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, you're very welcome. Enjoy the rest of the meeting, and weekend coming up here pretty soon. So we'll check in, and I'll get information over as soon as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, so we're now up to the grant agreement, the WUI 150.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a copy. I wrote this up as a agenda item. But this is basically what this comes down to. This is the result of the House bill that was discussed back in May. I think I was here for the meeting in that where Director McAdoo took a phone call.
Yeah.
And basically what happened is it fell out of House bill funding. Our representative went to the governor's office. The governor's office ultimately directed the state fire marshal to fund our project. So some conversations with the state fire marshal about how to make this work. And the easiest way to do it was to include it in emergency funding out of the Wildland Urban Interface grant funding program. So worked with the state fire marshal, came up with the project, the costs, the needs and wants, and here we are. So it came in as a grant, and the board needs to formally accept the grant for $1,149,500. And that funds a variety of things. So I believe you guys have that list. But that includes a type 6 brush engine, a type 3 interface engine, a water tender, hose, chainsaws, personal protective equipment, mobile radios, portable radios. Most of the stuff that was included in the original request for the House bill funding. I think we're minus the type 1 engine is what was also included, maybe a few other items, but either way, got us awfully close, and I'm requesting the board formally accept the award.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the grant, the Wildland Urban Interface grant, in a total amount of $1,149,500.
I think there's some questions here, don't we?
We're going to put it on the floor for discussion.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If I get a second or it dies.
I second it.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Silva and a second by Miller, open for discussion.
So when the went out for the quotes basically on this equipment that was made?
Yeah, that was actually Steve Abel's doing, so.
Okay, so Ken and I know very well what the price of aluminum, stainless and whatnot have done.
Right.
So we're gonna have to keep that in mind. And then the only thing is also, we have to make this available for any other fires out of our district and everything else, right?
Right, so we just,
Yeah.
we have to continue to support the Oregon conflagration system,
absolutely.
which we do.
Yeah.
Basically how this is gonna work is we have all these items in the project. The State Fire Marshal's office, after my conversation with Mariana, they will issue us a check. And from there, the check has to be used for the project. So if we come in, if we want so much for a brush engine, but we don't spend that much, we can apply it to, say, the type 3 is more money, we can apply it to that. So it's not, those numbers in there aren't stuck to those.
Yeah, so we're not committed to buy everything here, even though the prices have
Right.
gone up.
Right.
So, okay,
So if we can skimp in some areas to make it up in others,
Yeah.
that's perfectly acceptable. And if we go over, we go, it's on us, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think Abel did a good job of making those fit,
yeah,
just based on some conversations we've had with some manufacturers out there.
okay, good.
How long do we have to purchase it?
I won't know for sure until I get the finalized piece back, but it should be within the state's 2-year financial period. So it should be June 30th of 2020.
So they just issue a check and then you
If
go into the
we go into a
LGIP or-
special account and it's only used for that project.
We will have to do a budget amendment to make all this
Yeah.
fit in there, because obviously we're far exceeding what we've actually allocated. So
So we're gonna have another budget meeting with the budget committee. to do that
Everything.
then?
yeah,
That's the next step.
I'm anticipating another grant award through, actually, that one was through House bill funding, and that's for like $285,000 for equipment. I completed the paperwork for that one with Department of Administrative Services a couple weeks ago, so I'm just waiting for them to either write us a check or say spend money and reimburse or how it's going to work out. So, but that'll have to be included as part of that amendment.
And then where is this gonna be stored?
The equipment,
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you have three more vehicles.
I have an idea.
Can we use any of the funding to build a steel building or
No.
something?
Unfortunately, no. So actually, it would put us heavy a water tender, and one of the conversations that we will need to have is potentially coming up with an agreement with Colton. They are short a water tender, and what I'm proposing, I proposed it with their chief, is that we would house one of our tenders at their Elwood station, and we would let the volunteer staff that station. They're of course on board with that because they're running their older tender and missing one, so they have space. We have a need for a house
And
area.
then can we add that tender on our run cards, like from Colton, where they can
Right.
go on our run card? So we already have an additional tender.
If the
coming.
fire's up here, that tender gets tapped, if it's down there, it still gets tapped. Either side can respond to take it. It's a jointly staffed station. So there's that, and then in the apparatus space to put a type 3 and a type 6, we can do that. We just moved the duty officer vehicle outside. And, more thing around, but it'll go.
We'll fit it in.
That's right, we'll make it fit.
Unless you'd rather not. I mean,
So essentially, if we have another wildfire, or big fire, you know, the paid guys go out and they call volunteers in, we'll just have that much more equipment.
right, we have, it's building our capacity is what it's doing. So it's my assessment is for an entity that has a pretty significant wildfire problem every 5 or 6 years, we're seriously under equipped and under trained for it. And so that's part of my plan is to increase that capacity. And this is a huge jump. To get that going.
Absolutely.
I think it's phenomenal.
I need a signature.
Yeah, once we haven't adopted it
Oh,
yet.
that's right, yeah.
So I have a motion on the floor, still open for discussion. Is there any?
Good.
Then I'm going to call for the question. Director McAdoo?
Where you at, Johnson, still on there?
I think
Up
that
there.
dropped off and maybe.
No, he's up there twice.
3 times.
Wow, let's just see.
Director McAdoo, are you there?
See if I can even allow all of them to talk.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah. So we have a motion on the floor. It was open for discussion. Now I've called for the question, and you're the first director I've called upon for a vote. How do you vote, Director
I
McAdoo?
said yes.
Okay.
Yes.
good.
Okay, good. Director Oliver,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Day,
Yes.
and Silva is yes. Motion passes unanimously. Reserve funds and funding. Director Miller had called me and he had some very good things to point out. And I think from the history of the department, even Director McAdoo knows, we had to trim down a lot of our reserve funds. So we stopped funding what we normally would always fund in the past. And so that was with the whole idea that the merger may happen and so on, and we needed to get the station ready and operational. There was construction and different things. So it's now time to visit the subject of funding the reserve funds like we used to and get them back where we're not having to survive in the future with a bond or a vote of the public where we can survive like we always have. So with that being said, I think it's a healthy discussion for us to have. Like, it's been a past practice that we put the proper amount in all the different reserve funds to make sure we can stay afloat,
Yeah.
right?
Do we have any idea how much
Well,
a year we think we need to be putting in? Or
Well, I think we could look at historical data. We can look at what replacement costs are.
Well, I
And
think we need to look at actually what the district's needs are. And this, with what we have here with this WUI, that definitely changes the scenario a little bit. So, we need to look at our strengths and weaknesses on what this is gonna bring to the table and correct what we have as a weakness, and then, figure out from there. My concern is the amount of growth that we had last year and this year and further to the north. I'm not saying that we're gonna put another station down there, but I think we need to be prepared for something someday. I think it'd be smart to have some sort of reserve account for that for someday on that side of it.
for the building,
Or property.
we have a
too,
building. We have a reserve fund for building.
For building, okay.
Yeah.
Does that
for-
cover property also?
I don't know what it covers, but it's for maintenance. We use it for this building. At least we used to. I don't know if we have it anymore.
Nah, not really. So you're talking about capital reserve, right?
Yeah,
so-
basically.
So we need to designate a capital reserve. Not an account necessarily, but an item in there.
Yeah,
And I think there's 100,000 sitting in that right now, in that particular line item. So this obviously gives us a good jump with the WUI money that's
Yeah.
coming in. But it allows us time to build up so that we can buy straight up when the time comes. With that, just talking about a future station and property and things like that, I have our fire marshal looking at some new construction impact fees as a result of those subdivisions and all that's going out there. And we're still trying to figure out where we get the teeth to do that and how it all works. But it appears like if we don't jump on board here real quick with that, we're going to really miss the boat. There's some real opportunity there. So,
that scares me.
so
And
it's-
it's a double-edged sword. So it's not like everybody that's moving out here wakes up one morning and says, I really would love to live in Estacada. It's a price point. We start increasing the cost of people living here, they're not gonna come here. And then that's how we get our funding, is by our tax dollars. There's really nothing else. We start increasing that, and just like the city wants to do the CET, the construction excise tax, it's the same thing. Once they start increasing the cost of housing, then you start limiting the people that are coming out here, and that kind of slows our growth down. So, I agree, but I also, it's just a double-edged sword. It would be great to have that.
You're right on track with that, but I think it's something we seriously need to consider. But how that comes together, I don't have enough information to tell you today. That's-
Yeah, and then also, getting with the city. and-
President Silva,
Yes,
yeah, I don't mean to interrupt this conversation, but I have the same concern. Well, my question is we took these reserve funds out just to get our fire department up and operating, And I want to see how quick we can replace those funds and bring us back up to where we were before we pulled those funds.
I think you've got 100% agreement at this board right now. Everybody's definitely for it. I haven't seen any nods. So I think Director McAdoo, everybody's on board with that. But in addition to that, Director Miller is talking a little bit about, hey, with this growth that's occurring here, what are we doing to allocating some assets that we can use for potentially having a substation, or when that call comes. So that's obviously more data driven like type decision, but that's where we're at right now. And then Chief mentioned something about the fire marshals just looking into, not just seeing what the feasibility of doing an additional tax for new construction that people would pay, that we would get funding from that. So to help us with expansion. But and then Director Miller said we need to be aware that's a double-edged sword. It could drive people away from here, and then suddenly you have subdivisions popping up in Malala, and it's a lot more affordable. So
are you talking about a bond?
no, it's a tax. Is what
So
the
many
problem-
dollars per lot.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the city imposed tax. then.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no,
So
it
in
would
the
be a fire
SDCs,
district, it's like an
ours would be
SDC. But if the fire district would impose it, and we would collect it, I'm sure, through the city, because they would be the ones that would take the money in, but it'd be X amount of dollars per lot, is
So
what I've seen done in the past.
Yeah, I think one of the examples I had was from Thurston, so it wasn't Washington, or it wasn't Washington, not here, but it was like 36 cents per square foot. So if you built a 2,500 square foot home, you're paying a 36 cent per square foot fee for that, and that would come back to the fire district, one-time fee.
Yeah, they got one for the school district here, it's 50 cents a square foot.
Our fire marshal said it cost him $1 a square foot.
Oh, really?
For the school district. And then when he did the addition, it cost him another $1 a square foot.
Wow.
So I'll give my 2 cents. So I think I'm against any additional taxes. I feel like the difference is when you buy your home 20 years ago, you're fixed with no more than 3% growth on that tax. Although it's really grown, these people are buying these new places for 400 grand. So that first year, we're going to collect a pretty hefty tax bill from them. So I mean, I'm very weary
I
of
think- I
taxes.
think the argument is that they want the new growth to pay for any capital expenditures, major capital expenditures, instead of the citizens that are here now. Is what,
Yeah, so there's like the give and take with, instead of paying the impact fee, maybe this round they give us a chunk of land. So they're gonna put a subdivision in here, but they give us a piece, and that's for a future fire station. Next one comes in and they have to buy a piece of the fire station,
Yeah.
things like that. There's other ways around it. But we're obviously getting into a bigger conversation. than
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we
yeah,
were
we're getting into the weeds
anticipating
here.
Well, but I think it's important to know. So like if you have a developer that's coming in, they're going to put in 3 subdivisions, phase 1, 2, and 3, and they're willing to give us some land within that area where we could pop a fire station. Well, then maybe it's a more of a global, and it's not per lot, it's actually with the developer.
Right.
No, I'm okay with that. Because then it's just bare land that they haven't even put services to.
It's land that they give us as a part of their development, and it's supposed to be in lieu of those fees.
Well, there would be services there if it was part of that development.
Right, but
So,
only
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah,
versus-
yeah, well, versus many.
20
Yeah.
homes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a good conversation to have. I believe there's about 1,400 more homes. Flattened up there.
We have 865 currently in the works that we're getting plan reviews back for, and that's probably coming this spring. So it's
Yeah.
huge.
Is that the new ones coming? You're not talking about the 427.
These are new. New ones that are on paper, nothing else. Yeah.
We've exceeded all building permits from last year, this year. I think it's by, if I remember right.
It's gonna hit us, and it's gonna hit us all of a sudden.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go to.
I mean, in all reality, we're kind of behind the 8 ball on that as far as, I mean, not picking a spot, but I mean, figuring out how we're gonna afford it. Basically. I just felt it was something we should discuss.
I kind of feel like, I mean, won't really know until we get through maybe the first of the year, but I kind of feel like with the money that we got, we moved out of our capital funds from July 1 till what we're gonna be at the end of the year, that we probably would take a chunk of that to put into a capital reserve and still not affect our carryover for the July 1 to October. But
Are you foreseeing taking the reserve accounts that we have for apparatus and whatnot and adding to this? Or what do you see with those reserve accounts for apparatus and whatnot that we have?
adding to that,
Well, I don't know if you have this list
Mhm.
and say you come up short.
oh,
Do you foresee tapping into the apparatus reserves? No?
Just don't get something.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
we would just
Take
not,
something off.
okay,
right.
okay.
we would just do without.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any reason we won't be able to accomplish what we have there.
Would we put together a workshop? To, collect, prior to a workshop, collect a bunch of information on
I think
what
it-
apparatus is going for and
Well, I think you have to, right? I
talk
mean,
about it.
because when you're talking about response reliability, you need to talk about, like, your main station, how many pieces of apparatus could you have there? How many career people? How far can it take to get to the 8-minute goal, whatever it is? And then, so you might find out that instead of having 3 career people here, it really needs 5 career people. And then once you go further north past, Wildcat, you need a fire station. And that's where that's it, in between, you know what I mean? So I mean, you need mapping, you
Yeah,
need.
we're still gathering data just for what we do day to day at this point. It'll take a little bit of time, but yeah, that's absolutely it. Where we're gonna put a station depends on where the call's at, where the times.
But there's no reason why we can't start
We should
a
start.
fund for that.
Right.
Yeah,
But
it's
I was
better than
gonna say-
2 years from now decide, hey, we want a station
Yeah,
here.
we want to start going that direction for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the old saying says, crap rolls downhill. Well, that's where growth is going, is where it can roll downhill because it's got to get in the treatment plant. So,
And I realize you're starting a brand new fire department and we're going through lots of learning and growth and whatnot and so on. But I think come the, definitely way before next year's budget cycle, I think, by the end of this year, beginning of next year, we really should have a work session to talk about some of these items.
I started with on that, so yeah, it's coming in later.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
the sooner the better on this, in my opinion.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, then we're coming down to the financial report.
Okay. So you'll see the familiar financial statement we took from September. So it'll give you a snapshot of what is in our accounts for the end of September. And also we took the resources. LGIP has dividends and interest of $821.45, and that's 164% of 164% of what we thought we were going to get, which is good. And year to date is $2,845.29, which is 569% of what we thought we were going to get. Tax collection, we actually had some taxes come in for September of $5,728.54. Our payroll account, we had $88,899.22 go out to payroll in September. Materials and services, $48,736.14. And you'll see that it's well within the percentage range of our total annual budget. What's new, you'll notice, is that I was able to reconcile in QuickBooks all of our accounts through September So I was able to obtain a profit and loss statement for September. It's got a few bugs in it, but for the most part, I'm able to figure out and work them out. So that's our new little toy, is our profit and loss statement. And I was happy to be able to give you one for this month. Our payroll account, all that's going out of it is payroll and PERS. And then that brings us to this month's bills. Our auto pay for this month totaled $7,030.28. And then our general operating checks that we wrote this month totaled $34,047.95, for a total of $41,078.23 coming out of our general operating fund. And then payroll, 2 checks totaling $16,560.90. That's about all I have for the financial report.
Directors, any questions for Cheryl?
So like I have a question on in September, it says tax collection, $5,728.54. But then I look under the profit and loss statement and I only see income of $500.
Yes, because
So the interest isn't in there or that.
like I said, there's a few bugs and I'm pretty much working them out. The buckets of where we put things, when I put under LGIP, when I put taxes collected, it did not show up on my profit and loss statement. I had to put it way down at the bottom under designated apparatus beginning. You'll see the taxes there. It's 65.50.75. So that includes the 57.28.54, and then the interest of 821.45, and then 59 cents and 17 cents of other interest. So I have figured out since then how to get it to show up as income from taxes, but it wasn't showing up, and the only way I could get it to show up in our profit and loss statement was under 9101 designated apparatus beginning. So
We could not get it to.
Yeah.
pop up for whatever reason.
So now I have been since able to fix that and figure it out. But the other challenge I had was we didn't get our bank statement until Monday, our general operating statement, and I wasn't able to reconcile September until Monday. So I literally had hours to figure all this out, and it was like down to the wire. So it was like we were hustling.
Sometimes the income statement, this is more probably for us as directors, something familiar that we can read.
Yeah.
But it's not, is it a report you actually would have to turn into anybody? No.
No, because so like coming up, you're gonna see a whole lot of income here in the next, probably in the next one. December, maybe more so in December, because tax money will start rolling in. So as the assessors do their thing, we start collecting money, then that income side is gonna be a big number, because we're collecting the majority of our tax revenue in November, basically, because everybody's escrows start paying out. Tax bills are due, and then it'll trickle out in January, February, we won't see much of anything. So the 5,000 change that was there, yeah, that's our income, but I mean, it's pretty minimal, because just previously taxes that were never got collected and somebody finally paid somewhere along the way. But as far as reporting that to anybody else, yeah,
Just for us.
right.
I mean, it's nice to be able to see it. And the only other thing that I see on here, and it might be right, that we look like there's some big purchases for like technology or something like that, but that probably wouldn't hit the income statement, probably hit the balance sheet.
Some of them are like
Expense.
2 months worth too. A lot of it is Amazon purchases. A lot of it is I mean, I can tell you exactly what it is if you want to know. A lot of it, like the technology is, here. The 3W, we had 4 different invoices from 3W this month.
That server.
Mhm.
Servers.
Uh-huh. And some of it was also Amazon purchases. So there was quite a big, it looks daunting, but it's, once you get in there and see all of what it was, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I can get a detailed profit and loss statement that shows everything more detailed.
Oh.
But
No, it's fine. I just,
6 pages.
Yeah. it would be like, you'd have
it just look
to,
like
you'd have to
things that
put
you
on
purchase.
eyeglasses.
things that you purchase, big things that you purchase, like an automobile or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is
I
through
didn't know if it
3W,
was like with servers or something like that.
yeah.
Obviously, as we go and we put this stuff together, figure out where this stuff needs to fit more appropriately, like a server. In this case, the server we bought really wasn't that big. It depends on your perspective, but versus like buying the Type 6 engine, that would be a big purchase. That's a different capital item that would be outlined.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Any further questions for you, Cheryl? Okay, and then we just finished there. Before we go on to board comments, I'm just gonna slip in here, any public comments. So let's open it up to the public. Anybody online? If you can go and raise your hand or type in the notes wherever you can.
I do not have any hands raised. I don't have any chat. I do not have any questions.
Okay. And we'll move on to board comments.
Did the auditing firm ever get in?
Yeah.
We have to have that done by this end of December. And we have 6 months from the end of the year. The end of the year was July 1st.
I'm not gonna say exactly what they did, but I can't tell you for sure.
Okay.
But I know it's deferred on account of them.
Okay.
And they are on contract with us, so they do have to do it.
Yep.
But
I just want to make sure we don't get in trouble for not
Yeah.
getting it done in time.
no, I don't think we're gonna run into that by any means. But it is on my to-do to find out when they're planning to come, because they were here, they were scheduled, and then they bailed out, so.
That was in September.
Right. Early September, like the 6th or something like that.
The only board comment I have is good job on the grant.
Yeah.
You might want to let the newspaper know this is something that citizens would love to hear.
Yeah, I was waiting for a formal.
Okay.
Approval.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of hot to write
Very
something.
excited about it.
Director McAdoo, are you there?
Yeah,
Hey, a special thanks to you for starting this whole thing, at the legislator level. And then because of their pressure, even though it didn't pass in committee, they obviously, with your backing and everything else, they went to the governor, and a lot of receiving this has to do about you. So really appreciate the hard work that you put into that.
thank you. I got one more question, Chief. Did we get our 285,000 yet?
Not yet. I did paperwork for that a couple weeks ago, so I'm thinking any day.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any additional board comments? Okay. There's no correspondence. Any last minute community items?
We're busy with football games and homecoming parades.
Was a wet one there tonight.
That's junior, is that varsity, right?
Oh, that's, yeah. it's JV.
I've never been to a big,
Tomorrow night.
I've never been to a football game.
It's been years, right?
Okay, so the last item on the agenda is executive session. to discuss labor contract ORS 192.660 subsection 2, subsection B as in Bravo, and ORS 192.660 subsection 3. And then when we come back out of that, we'll just end up coming here and adjourning the meeting. So I think all business is completed in open session that needs to be done. With that being said, we're going to relocate over to city.
Muting and
I gotta
starting.
go let Larry in.
Um, yeah.
All right, it's 9:50 PM and we are coming out of executive session into our regular meeting. Next meeting is Thursday, November 18th at 7 PM. Anybody in the audience that if we end up having a special meeting in between now and then, it'll be announced and it'll be advertised. Directors, do you have any final thoughts? Director McAdoo, any final thoughts?
Muted.
I asked her, medium.
No, I'm done.
You done? Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Muted himself.
Okay, so nothing?
Nope.
All right, we're adjourned.
Adjourn.
All right. Yeah, like that way you can see what he is, and somebody can be guiding him. And then. Oh. No.
Alan, drive by in the morning.